Michael Carter had never imagined that one simple act of kindness would completely change his life. At 38 years old, he worked long hours as a construction worker, struggling every day to provide a decent life for his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Ever since his wife, Sarah, had passed away after a long illness, Michael had carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. He was both a father and a mother to Lily, and although the burden was heavy, he never allowed his daughter to see him lose hope. Every morning, he woke up before sunrise, prepared Lily's breakfast, walked her to school, and then headed to work. Every evening, he returned home exhausted, but he still found enough energy to help Lily with her homework, prepare dinner, and read her a bedtime story. Their apartment was tiny, their furniture was old, and their savings account was nearly empty. But their home was filled with love. One cold evening in late October, Michael and Lily were walking home together after stopping at a grocery store. Dark clouds covered the sky, and a chilly wind swept through the streets. As they passed a bus station, Lily suddenly grabbed her father's arm. "Dad, look over there," she whispered. Sitting alone on a wooden bench was an elderly woman wearing an elegant but thin coat. Her silver hair was wet from the rain, and her hands trembled as she held a small handbag close to her chest. She looked confused, frightened, and completely alone. Michael immediately approached her. "Ma'am, are you all right?" he asked gently. The woman looked up and forced a weak smile. "I believe I am lost," she replied. "My phone battery died, and I cannot remember the address I need to return to." Michael glanced around the nearly empty street. The temperature was dropping quickly, and rain was beginning to fall more heavily. "Do you have any relatives nearby?" he asked. The woman shook her head sadly. "My daughter lives in another city. I was visiting a friend, but I became disoriented." Lily stepped forward and smiled. "You can stay with us tonight." Michael looked at his daughter and smiled. Their apartment barely had enough room for the two of them, but he knew he could not leave the woman alone. "My daughter is right," he said. "Please come with us." The woman introduced herself as Evelyn Parker. During the short walk to the apartment, Lily happily talked about school, her favorite books, and her dream of becoming a doctor someday. Evelyn listened carefully and occasionally laughed at Lily's innocent jokes. When they arrived home, Michael prepared a simple meal consisting of soup, bread, and tea. Evelyn thanked him repeatedly. "You have shown me more kindness in 1 hour than some people show in a lifetime," she said quietly. Michael shrugged his shoulders. "My parents taught me that if you can help someone, you should do it." As the evening passed, Evelyn carefully observed the little family. She noticed the cracked walls, the worn furniture, and the stack of unpaid bills on the kitchen table. She saw that Michael's boots were old and damaged, and she realized that he had sacrificed his own comfort to give Lily a better life. Later that night, Michael offered Evelyn his bedroom while he slept on the couch. The following morning, Evelyn's phone finally charged enough for her to call her daughter. Almost immediately, the woman on the other end answered. Her voice was filled with panic. "Mother, where have you been?" she cried. Evelyn smiled. "I am safe. Some wonderful people helped me." About 2 hours later, the sound of engines echoed through the neighborhood. Several expensive black vehicles stopped outside the apartment building. Men wearing dark suits stepped out and looked around carefully. Curious neighbors gathered at their windows. A tall, elegant woman emerged from the first car and hurried toward the entrance. As soon as she entered the apartment, she embraced Evelyn tightly. Tears filled her eyes. "Mother, I was terrified," she whispered. Then she turned toward Michael. "Are you the man who took care of her?" Michael nodded politely. "Yes, ma'am." The woman smiled warmly. "My name is Victoria Parker." Michael's eyes widened. He recognized her immediately. Victoria Parker was one of the wealthiest women in America. Her technology company employed thousands of people and generated billions of dollars every year. Newspapers constantly featured stories about her success. Yet there she stood inside his tiny apartment. Evelyn gently placed her hand on Victoria's shoulder. "Michael and Lily treated me like family," she explained. Victoria looked around the apartment and seemed deeply moved. "My mother told me everything," she said. "You opened your home to a complete stranger without expecting anything in return." Michael smiled. "Anyone would have done the same thing." Victoria slowly shook her head. "No, they wouldn't." She reached into her handbag and removed a checkbook. "Please allow me to repay your kindness." Before she could continue, Michael raised his hand. "I'm sorry, but I cannot accept your money." Victoria looked surprised. "Why not?" "Because I didn't help your mother for money," he replied. "I helped her because she needed help." Evelyn smiled proudly as Victoria stared at Michael in silence. During the following days, Victoria found herself thinking constantly about the humble construction worker and his daughter. She ordered a private investigation into Michael's background and soon discovered the difficulties he had faced. She learned about his wife's death, his financial struggles, and the dreams he had sacrificed to raise Lily. She also discovered that Michael had once hoped to establish his own construction company, but had abandoned the idea years earlier. A week later, Victoria returned to the apartment carrying a large folder. Michael invited her inside. She smiled and placed the folder on the table. "You refused my money," she said, "so I decided to offer you something else." Michael looked at her curiously. Victoria opened the folder and spread several documents across the table. "I want to become your business partner," she announced. Michael stared at her in disbelief. Victoria explained that she would provide the funding while Michael would manage the company. "I believe in hardworking people," she said, "and I believe in you." Michael could hardly believe what he was hearing. For several moments, he simply stared at the papers before him. Evelyn gently squeezed his shoulder. "Opportunities like this do not appear every day," she said softly. With tears in his eyes, Michael finally agreed. Over the next year, his life changed completely. His new construction company quickly became successful because he treated every employee with fairness, honesty, and respect. Customers admired his dedication, and business expanded rapidly. For the first time in many years, Michael no longer worried about paying bills or buying groceries. Lily transferred to a better school, and they eventually moved into a beautiful new house. Despite their success, Michael never forgot the difficult years. He continued helping those in need and often reminded Lily that kindness was more valuable than wealth. Meanwhile, Lily and Evelyn developed a close relationship. Evelyn often visited on weekends, and the two spent hours baking cookies, planting flowers, and sharing stories. One afternoon, nearly 2 years after they first met, Michael stood in his backyard watching Lily play with Evelyn. Victoria walked toward him and smiled. "My mother says meeting you was the greatest surprise of her life," she said. Michael laughed softly. "She changed our lives as much as we changed hers." Victoria nodded. "Perhaps that is how kindness works. It moves from one person to another until everyone is transformed by it." Michael looked toward the sky and thought about the rainy evening when everything had begun. He had simply wanted to help an elderly woman who seemed lost and frightened. He had expected nothing in return, yet that single decision had opened a door he never knew existed. At that moment, he understood that true wealth was not measured by money, expensive homes, or successful businesses. True wealth was measured by compassion, generosity, and the willingness to help others when they needed it most. And in the end, that simple lesson changed all their lives forever.